Hi, my name is MSullivan. I am a recent undergrad from UAA with a Bachelor of Arts in English and Journalism. So, in my project, I looked at video games and the potential that they hold to help in the field of education. I did this by looking at the research done by others and consolidating their result into one paper which examined the similarities and patterns that they each found in video games and how they assist in the development of various skills such as learning to critically think about different things and communicate with others. So everything that I looked at addressed the development of this field and its relative recency, but as the world is becoming more digital and technology is getting more advanced, video games are just becoming more and more popular, so we need to start looking into how we can utilize video games. So one of my key findings was the ability of video games to both capture and keep one's attention through their fostering of an environment of persistence and motivation. So Eichenbaum, Bavler, and Green found that the most successful games were those which are designed to teach the player how to succeed. So what does this mean? Well, so basically this was just addressing the lack of context and relevance of information that we are taught in school to the real world. So in school, you mostly learn things in theory, and then by the time it gets around to actually using it in the real world, you've forgotten it. Or when you're taught this in classrooms, students often just don't care because it's not relevant to them at the time. But in video games, everything that you learned is necessary to your success, and you actually utilize the stuff that you learn in the next phase of the video game, and you therefore retain the information much better because it is relevant to you at the time. So another key finding was the complexity behind video games, as there's just so much going on that the player has to be aware of. So Chung, Liu, Chen, and Hisesh found that the constant need of the player to be aware of their environment, the situation, and task at hand, all while maintaining and effectively communicating and cooperating with others on their team, has been linked to a multitude of benefits on all levels of one's perceptive and cognitive abilities. So what does this mean? Basically, all of the strategizing, hypothesizing, and problem solving which are present in video games are already educational in nature, and we just have to learn how to connect it to the world of academia. So some of the most effective, but it's important to note that the most effective games were those where interactivity is integral, which is what Paraskivi, Miriaski, and Papagiani found. So while these findings have revealed a lot about how we can use video games for our advantage, I also uncovered some of the most effective teaching strategies, some of the most effective strategies behind teaching and learning methods. And by this I mean that if you look at the major emphasis placed upon the motivational aspect of video games and their ability to create interest in learning by doing, video games can teach us a lot about the way we work, because already they have shown us effective ways to keep one interested and cultivate an attitude of perseverance. They cultivate this attitude of perseverance by learning to see failure as inevitable, because while the best games are built for success, they are also built for a lot of failure. Because without failure, the game would be too easy and it wouldn't be fun if it was too easy. So video games are all about learning to overcome these obstacles and communicate effectively with yourself and others to succeed. As Kalia, Valtanon, Tidre, and Serioski found, people who play digital games were more persistent than non-gamers when solving difficult riddles. So the biggest takeaway that I would like others to come away from this paper is that this is still the developing field, but we must begin to recognize video games as they are, which is neither inherently good or bad. So we need to begin focusing on learning to utilize their potential and further explore this positive relationship between gaming experience and cognitive abilities. That is, we need to begin incorporating this into the real world and realizing the potential between learning and enjoyment that video games have so effectively mastered. Basically, as Connolly, Boyle, MacArthur, and Haney put it, we're just realizing the potential of video games as a useful and attractive way of learning. So, one aspect of high-quality research writing that I learned in the making of this project was the ability to create and stick to a plan. This is important because it helps the researcher to gather their thoughts together and prepare and conduct your research, having a general idea of what you're looking for, so that you're not just going out there rooting through everything. But this is not to say that you can't drift from your plan, because another key aspect of research writing is that of revising and changing your plan as you discover new problems and directions. However, I also learned that all of the revising and planning in the world does not do much if your topic is simply too broad, which brings me to the other characteristic of high quality research, which is that of having a focused and specific issue that you're looking into. So after you create your plan, it's very important in both the process of writing and the final project that you find a focus or a specific problem or question to answer, as it ensures that you're not simply finding every possible article available on your topic and then dumping it into a final paper in which the conclusion sums up everything that you've learned. By focusing on a specific question, the process ends up going a lot more smoothly because you not only need to read less articles that are irrelevant to your topic, but you're writing with a purpose in mind. And when you're writing with a purpose in mind, oftentimes your audience can tell. So, ironically, the biggest thing that I learned in this project was how to deal with failure in such a way where I could keep working past the challenges and reflect on what I'm doing wrong and how to fix this. I think this was one of the toughest papers I've ever written, simply due to the lack of research out there and how I initially wanted to connect it to Overwatch, but that didn't happen as extensively as I thought it would. So I think in this process I learned a lot about the importance of drafting things out and revising. This is just because there were so many steps in the process of creating the paper, and I'm just so used to sitting down and writing everything all at once so that I don't lose my train of thought. But we had to plan everything out so intensely in this class. So I guess the skill gained through revising so much was that of understanding myself better and how I think, because I learned how to edit my writing and work on things over time. It was all about thinking about the process rather than having a word dump session the night before the paper was due, which is what I think was the point of it. So in the vein of revising though, I also learned how to change my vision and work with the resources that are available. This is simply because of the lack of stuff available on my chosen topic, and I've never spent so much time searching for relevant sources, even after I changed my focus multiple times. So I think that I became very, very confident in pulling out keywords and phrases from the articles that I was looking at to find research that was relevant to me and my topic. And this will help me in the future because I will be able to look into things that aren't so widely researched and make bigger grounds in the world, because you're researching things that need to be researched rather than that what's already been looked into a lot by many people. So that was my biggest takeaway and what I learned in this